This is Let's Talk Ball. My name is Thad Brown. That's Carl Jones. We do this every single week, just about talking about the Bills game, the X's and O's, taking a look at the All-22 film, and breaking it down, what went right, what went wrong. Now, this week we're talking about Bills-Bears, and we need to start with a giant caveat between A, how terrible the weather was, and let me tell you, as someone who was on the field, it was awful, both the temperature and the wind, which was consistent pretty much for 4 straight quarters, and how awful the Bears are in general, both sides of the ball. It's really hard for us to sit here and draw hard and fast conclusions about the Bills. We'll tell you what we saw, but just everything in here gets a big grain of salt that goes with it. Now that I've dispensed with the caveats and the precursor, trying to explain what happened, let's start with the offense. And when I was watching this game on the field, especially middle of the game, late second, early third quarter, my thinking was, look, Ken Dorsey, I know you talked this week about how you learned last year in the Patriots game that Josh Allen's arm can cut through the wind. Awesome thing to have in the arsenal. You don't need to do it in this game. The Bears D is that bad. Just keep handing it off. And I'll give Dorsey credit. I think as the game progressed, remember, this game was still a one-score game deep into the fourth quarter. So it wasn't like the Bills were blowing them out. He did figure that out. And I think this game, the line was okay. There's some good blocks. I thought Spencer Brown had a pretty solid game. To me, the stars in this game were the 2 running backs. I thought both guys, for what they're supposed to do, were effective. And I think especially with James Cook. I thought in this game he looked as comfortable as he looked all season long. There were a couple plays where you could see him navigating, finding space. Ken Dorsey's talked about him having good vision. When he said it 2-3 weeks ago, I kind of rolled my eyes. The last few weeks, it's been there. You've seen it. And even a couple of times where he was able to avoid some pressure in the backfield. So I thought both running backs played pretty well. Up front, they were good enough, again, against a soft opponent. Spencer Brown, I thought, had the best day of the 5. Deion Dawkins had a really good day, too. But for me, the running backs were the ones who stood out in this game.
I think Ken Dorsey did an excellent job also of, as we talked about in previous weeks, getting that O-line in space and using them to their strengths. Mm-hmm. They're not maulers. We've realized that we're at 17 weeks in now. So allowing those guys to pull guards, even the tackle, Spencer Brown, I thought looked good in that aspect of the running game. So that was unique to see. But on the flip side, the passing game did not look so good. And now, like you talked about, you put a big asterisk early on. The wind and weather did not help out with this whatsoever. 172 yards is not a lot for Josh. But to be fair, though, the entire Midwest was beat up by this, and there weren't many quarterbacks who lit up the scoreboard last week in that weather across the country, across the NFL at all. So I want to add a precursor to that. Now, having said that, though, there are some things where I don't want to say concerned with, but I'm going to be having a keen eye going forward. The Stephon Diggs lack of targets, right? 2 targets from your superstar receiver. They got the win, so it's not unacceptable or anything like that. But going forward, you obviously want your guy to be more involved in the game plan. 2 of the reasons I thought, it is what it is. This is a one-off. The weather was terrible, and then the ground game was excellent. Why go away from it? I'm in agreement with that. Having said that, though, I do think there was one thing that was alarming was the fact that he was open.
Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs was open several times, and Josh Allen wasn't hitting him. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not in the quarterback's room. I'm not reading what they're saying. I don't know what their progressions are. Having said that, though, there were a lot of times where Josh Allen was checking down to his backs, whether that was Singletary, Cook, or even Nyheim Hines later on. Early on in the season, Josh Allen was perfect. MVP conversations, and then he hit that lull. The mistakes, crossbody throws. What are you doing, Josh? And it seems as if whether it's McDermott, Dorsey, or himself, he's dialed back the aggressiveness a little bit, and it's caused him, I don't know, to not beat Josh all the time. And don't get it twisted. There were a couple throws in that game where I'm like, yo, Josh, I don't know what you was doing, but that definitely wasn't the read. Whether that was the interception or the crossbody near interception to Gabe Davis. But I do think that was part of the reason why Diggs was hurt. It was just Josh Allen was so content on just checking it down instead of going through his progressions and finding Stephon Diggs.
Now, again, like you said, the win was so bad. I'm sure there was encouragement during the week to look, take the easy money, take the short ones. But the decision-making was a question. And it was funny. I'm watching this game, and I keep thinking, okay, I don't like this decision by Josh, but again, it's super windy. I don't like this decision by Josh, but it was so cold outside. There were things. I mean, the first interception, Isaiah McKenzie, is pretty brutal quarterback play. And like you said, the one he threw across his body towards Gabe Davis that should have been picked, also bad. He said the second interception was the wind grabbing the ball. I'm telling you, I think that ball's overthrown no matter what. To me, I think we're both in the same ballpark here. The degradation of the offensive line, and especially in this game without Mitch Morse, I feel like that there are times that Josh Allen drops back and is bailing on a play at the first hint of trouble because he does not trust the 5 guys in front of him. And I got to say, in large part, I can't blame him, especially the 2 guards. They've been, really below what the Bills expected. And then you take Mitch Morse out of the mix. The whole middle 3 in this game was, red alert kind of stuff for Josh Allen. So I get that. But there were a few times where he's running where there's no pressure, where he's leaving the pocket, where you could have stayed in.
That has nothing to do with the win.
Exactly, where you could have maybe stayed in and made that throw further down the field. Again, this Bears game, whatever. But yes, it's been a problem, and the stuff with his decision-making in the pocket, not where he goes with the ball, but whether he stays in the pocket, when he moves, how often he moves, there have been, it seems like more and more and more, there have been questions with whether he's making the right call, whether he has an opportunity to stay in the pocket more, and whether he's costing his team yards by bailing early.
Yeah, and it helped a ton that he wasn't playing well today. The receiving court couldn't get open a lot of times. Where the Bears DBs, now granted, I know they got some guys who I think will be good in the future, in Brisker and Kyler Gordon, but I mean, if you're the Bills, you're supposed to feel confident going into this matchup, and so I understand why the passing game wasn't clicking on all cylinders. It helped out that the ground game stepped up big time. James Cook, I know you mad about that fat 99. I know you mad. I know you're upset. I was upset for you, honestly.
Yeah.
It's the end of the game, and I'm looking like, all right, can he get like the extra step so he can get 100 yards, 200-yard backs? That would have been cool for the Bills, but nonetheless, 254 is nothing to sneeze at.
You brought it up too. I do want to make it a second point about this. The Bears in man-to-man coverage won more reps than you think they would have across the board. There were multiple man-to-man reps where no one was open. Where you're like, look, I know this Bears defense is bad. They're still in the NFL. This is a game where the Bills should have gotten open more than I thought they did, and that was a little eye-opening too. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. I think what we'll start with there is the cornerback play. And one thing I want to bring up, we just talked about this before we started, the one deep pass the Bears hit. Kaiir Elam is chasing it all the way, so it looks like initially that he got beat there. But you pointed out why really Kaiir Elam had no chance on that play.
Yeah, so in that type of coverage, it was either a cover 4.
Look, cover 4.
Cover 4. Yeah. There was no deep safety, so I will go with a cover 4, right? It was a cut split, so Kaiir Elam has to be outside leverage. Any cornerback, any person who's ever played will tell you, if there's any type of over route running away from me, I have 0 chance unless it's a bad ball. And especially when that receiver is Velus Jones, who ran a 4.31 at the combine, laser. Good luck. I don't care how fast you are as a corner. That is just a tough play to make. And look, I know that was Trey White's responsibility on the backside to come down and get that ball down. Wind was probably going all over the place. I'm sure Trey White didn't play center field, so that didn't help. Good ball by Justin Fields. But, yeah, I mean, it wasn't on Kaiir Elam. That's a tough play. And you can tell that Trey White, there was a red alarm going off when he saw that tight end go across the field. He's like, holy cow, I need to get beat. I need to get back, right? So tough play for Kaiir. Obviously, you want to make all the plays. Right. I'm sure he got into the meeting room, and I'm sure they were like, hey, take one step this way. Maybe you would have made the play, right? Having said that, though, looking at it from this angle, there was not much he can do on that play.
Yeah, and when you talk about playing center field, even Willie Mays is not running back for that kind of ball. Like you said, a good ball by Justin Fields, but just a situation where they had, the right call against the right coverage, which happens. I thought other than that, the defensive backs generally played okay. Again, the Bears were never good to begin with a receiver, and they're playing like they're second stringers. So woo, good job. You beat guys that probably would play the third quarter of the fourth preseason game. But whatever, I thought generally they're okay. The one thing I was semi-impressed by, Trey White, not as a coverage guy, but as a physical defender. He had the tackle on 4th down that barely kept the tight end from, what was still a pretty key point in the game from getting a first down. He had another play where he just straight up tackled Justin Fields. Tackle might be a little bit of an exaggeration. He kind of got his body in the way, but regardless.
He got him on the ground.
Exactly. and Trey White is not known for being the physical guy. Look, he'll run defend. He'll stick his nose in. But he's not known for being that, and he looked pretty good in that role in this game.
That's encouraging to see. That's a guy who's getting more confident. That's a guy, like we saw last week against the Dolphins. All right, man, he's making plays on the ball. He's moving around. He's trusting his knee, new surgically repaired knee. But now he's adding that part of his game as well. That's so encouraging for a Bills team that has struggled in the tackling department the past few weeks. So if your corner can do it, that encourages all the other guys inside. Like, hey, if the little dude, the smallest dude on the field can get somebody on the ground,
right,
maybe I need to do that too. So that's always a good sign for the defense.
Bills shut down Justin Fields, 11 yards and 7 carries. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. So another caveat. This game is loaded with just who knows if this is really what I'm seeing. But one reason for Justin Fields not having a big game is Matt Milano, and you got some thoughts on Matt.
Yeah, he's good at football.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Back to you, Thad.
Matt Milano's good, right? I mean, it wasn't like you talked about this in the right before we got on. The couple plays that he made when he was spying Justin Fields, you would have assumed that was his responsibility the entire game. It wasn't. I saw him in man coverage on David Montgomery a couple times. He came off man coverage when Montgomery went to go tackle Justin Fields on that third down play and made the Bears take a field goal. Hell of a play right there. Or what about the play that I just love to see? He comes up and fills the gap, takes on the fullback, TFL on 3rd and short. Trey White gets the tackle on 4th down the next play. He did it all. I mean, that game plan, Leslie Frazier, I'm sure every single week he's like, all right, what can I do this week with Matt Milano?
Right.
Because, I mean, he did it all. And in this specific game, hey, when Justin Fields leaves the pockets and you have a spy responsibility, go fetch. When it's in man coverage, go lock the guy down. If you need to go take on the fullback, go be a dude. And he did all 3 of those to the best of his ability last Saturday.
Yeah, he's been doing it all year too. I will say, it's funny those 2 plays you brought up. So the 3rd down, Milano fills the hole. I was watching again. He actually gets clocked by the receiver who's cracked back in there, and it just knocks him down, and he ends up like spilling the hole to where there's nowhere for anybody to go. I think Shaq Lawson got an arm on that play. And then the one thing I do want to bring up, so the Tremaine Edmonds debate continues to rage until he gets paid by somebody.
Right.
I think still probably the Bills. The 3rd down play before Trey White's 4th down stop, Milano's out there covering Montgomery and actually did a nice job of physically up Montgomery to hold him that spot. If Montgomery had ran an in route, Milano's not there. Tremaine Edmonds got juked out of his socks by Fields. And if Milano's not there to clean it up, Fields is probably scoring a touchdown there. So
that end zone angle, if Milano's not in it at first and you're like, oh, Fields is going to take it by himself, Milano comes in at the end. Yeah,
right. So regardless, though, I thought generally a good game by the defense. Fields, for the stat I loved, the last 12 games, Field had at least 1 carry of 12 yards. He didn't get 12 yards in the whole game. So good team defense. I thought Ed Oliver had a great game. Couple of huge pass breakups, knockdowns at the line of scrimmage. Greg Rousseau, a little splashy at the end. Wasn't good top to bottom, but this has kind of been his game this year. He'll have a series or a quarter where he looks good. Had that again in this game. Tim Settle, I thought, had a pretty noticeable splashy game as well, and in a spot where they needed him too. Jordan Phillips kind of come back off the injury. There's one play he went out with his shoulder kind of holding it. He said after the game he was fine. In a spot where you got Ed Oliver, and then you're hoping Tim Settle stepped up big in this game.
They did what they were supposed to do. I know that offensively, they still put up 35 points, but maybe they didn't look how.
Piled on a little late.
It wasn't as crisp as they wanted it to be. Defensively, you take away that first drive. They played lights out, and you go into the week saying, hey, guys, we need to dominate these guys because they're not supposed to be on the same field as us. And they did just that. So as a defensive player, there's nothing better than that.
You're good with this game in terms of stuff that you thought from the Bears and Bills?
Yeah, there was nothing much to take from
I want to bring something up, and we haven't talked about this. I'm dropping this on you now. Bills-Bengals. What's the thought on Kyer Elam getting more snaps in this game? Because I looked at the Bengals receivers. You got T. Higgins 6'4", Tyler Boyd 6'2", and then the short guy is Jamar Chase 6'1", and he feels like the biggest guy in the field, right? Elam is the only really physical corner the Bills have. Now look, Elam's been up and down in coverage all year. In this space, we haven't been too high on him. I think he's been a little better lately. But with that size-speed combo, is this a guy that might be better able, or at least more reasonable to give the shot to take on these guys one-on-one? Maybe it doesn't work out, but let's roll Elam out there a lot of times. We might win a few.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if he's shown anything on film to say we must play him against this type of receiver. Having said that, his measurables say at least give it an opportunity and a chance. I mean, Jamar Chase, he's one of the quickest guys. Whenever I watch Jamar Chase, I watch his releases off the line. I'm like, I don't know how you got open, but apparently you're the most explosive guy on the field at all times. So he's explosive. T. Higgins, played against him at Clemson. He's a freak of nature. His at the catch point, contested catches, he's amazing. Tyler Boyd, dang, he played against him at Pitt too. He gave us fits. These are great guys who are physical, real physical guys, height, weight, speed guys. And the Bills, like you said, they don't have a lot of those in the secondary in general, not even at safety.
Right.
But Kyer Elam is the one guy who can bring that to the table, and that's why you go get a guy in the first round like that. That's why you go to the SEC and get these 6'2" corners who can run 4.3. So I say give him a chance, and if it doesn't work, you go back to Dane Jackson because at least you're going to get
competent play.
I'm going to get here with Dane Jackson. if Kyer gives you here, all right, cool, whatever, but there's an opportunity that he can give you here.
I think this game, to me, the biggest concern, especially for the Bills on defense, is that second corner. You know, because if I'm Joe Burrow and I drop back, I got Trey White on somebody, I got Taron Johnson on somebody, I'm going to throw the other somebody. Because that somebody is still Higgins or Boyd or Chase. I feel like I got to win. If Elam can step up, or Dane Jackson for that matter, and have a big game, to me, that's the biggest key to the Bills, you know, being able to handle this Bengals offense, because they are as good as advertised.
Yeah, and the one thing that's so cool about the Bengals offense, Joe Burrow just trusts his guys. Like, he'll just go to the line of scrimmage and you'll see, oh, he made his pre-snap read and he's just going there, which means he has supreme confidence in his guys. So as a corner, you know before the snap, all right, the ball's coming here. There's nothing better than that. These are the games that Trey White, Dane Jackson, Kyer Elam,
they should live for.
You're living for this.
Yeah.
You're licking chops. You took last week off, all right?
Right.
Like, I mean, they maybe had like 5 regular drop sacks last week, all right? But this game, Monday night, going against probably the best receiving core in the league, I know they're licking their chops.
Yeah, you throw Joe Mixon into that. You think about Mixon, Boyd, Chase, Higgins. There's not a team in the NFL that has a foursome like that to attack with the passing game. All right, thanks for checking out Let's Talk Ball. Please watch or listen to something else here at RochesterFirst.com. I don't know when we'll do this again, because Monday Night Football, we'll see. Maybe Thursday again next week. We'll see how it goes. But we enjoy doing this. We'll keep this going through the playoffs for sure. For Carl Jones, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks for watching and listening.